Welcome back to Joe Stunner Boxing. As you probably know, Leigh Wood is going to face Mauricio Lara for the WBA featherweight title over the weekend. That's going to be on Saturday night. I think it's on DAZN, isn't it? So credit to DAZN for putting this on, because this is going to be a barn burner, we think. You can never guarantee anything in boxing, but these two guys, Leigh Wood and Mauricio Lara, have got heavy, heavy hands, and we can, with some justification, expect a bit of a Vesuvius-like eruption. So let's look at both fighters first of all. Let's look at Mauricio Lara, who made his name by coming to Britain and knocking out Josh Warrington in 9 rounds. They had a rematch. Warrington, it looked to me, wasn't that confident going in. In the first round, he didn't look confident at all. Lara was going forward, throwing his heavy hooks, really putting it on Warrington. In the second round, Warrington did his little Billy Goat routine. Lara, bad cut. It was a 2-round technical draw, which doesn't really tell the whole story. Had that fight continued, I would have expected Lara to win by stoppage or knockout. And since then, he's had 2 fights, one with Emilio Sanchez and one with Jose San Martin. The latter was the most recent fight, and that was in October of last year. And both those fights, the San Martin fight and the Sanchez fight, they both ended in 3-round knockouts for Lara. Now, against San Martin, he didn't look confident going in, old Jose. He already had 5 defeats on his record and ended up with a 6th. He hadn't even stopped once previously, but he just didn't look like he had a lot of self-belief. And it's a shame, because he held his shape quite well, did have some skills, but he was almost waiting for Lara to hit him, or waiting to get knocked out almost, and Lara obliged in 3 rounds. Interestingly, and this is true of a lot of Lara's fights, he isn't just a crude banger. He may have this reputation as being a wild caveman type, but he always starts a fight. If you look at all his fights, he starts by jabbing, by trying to get his range and his distance and his rhythm going, which is good. And he jabs to the body. He also hooks. A lot of those wild hooks aren't headshots; they're to the body. So he mixes it up. So there is clearly some thought going into what he's doing. And by the 3rd round, he clipped San Martin, put him over. I think it was 2 knockdowns, and then the ref stopped the fight. But it was, Lara was clearly, at least in terms of belief and ambition and motivation, seemed to be streets ahead of San Martin, who didn't look like the most confident fighter out there. But the one previous to that, against Emilio Sanchez, that was very interesting indeed. Now, Lara, if you go back in his career, he's actually got 2 defeats on his record. His current record is 25 wins with 18 KOs, 2 defeats and 1 by stoppage. And that was in 2018, where he got knocked out in 1 round. And that was by a guy called Elliot Chavez over in Mexico. Chavez at the time had a 5-1-1 record. And he just chinned him inside a minute. It was 50 seconds. It was all over. So Chavez had just caught him cold. You could say that. But Lara, this is the point. He can clearly be hurt. He can be caught. If you are that type of fighter, a front foot fighter who wallows in aggression and loves a bit of pure violence, you're going to leave yourself open at some point. And so it was in 2018. And since then, maybe this is why, when Lara starts a fight, he's a little bit reticent. He likes to jab a bit. He likes to just ease his way in. I mean, normally by the 2nd round, he's swinging for the cheap seats. But nevertheless, for the first round, he likes to settle down. Maybe he's got it on his mind. I got stopped in a round back in 2018. That's never going to happen again. Maybe it's that type of thing. But against Emilio Sanchez, there was some very revealing stuff went on there, because that was even though Sanchez was over in the 1st round and got knocked out right at the end of the 3rd round, he had his moments, to put it mildly. And Mauricio Lara for most of the 3rd round, was getting battered. And I didn't like the look of his body language in that fight. He looked to me like he was not looking for a spot on the canvas to have a sit down, but he seemed to be sagging. The belief seemed to be going out of him a little bit. He certainly seemed to be a bit gassed. And it was very noticeable that Sanchez landed some very good body punches of his own. He talked about Lara landing body punches. No doubt he does that well. But he looks to me rather vulnerable to the body. Now, he got out of jail because with about 15, 20 seconds to go, he chinned Sanchez. And I mean, he clocked him and Sanchez collapsed under the bottom rope. I think the referee fell over him as he fell and didn't even count. So the power can get you out of jail. But it does seem to me with Lara that he's got to get you early. I know it was the 9th round knockout with Warrington, and he does have another couple of, I think there was one in the 8th round, knockout in the 8th round, but he looks like a guy who prefers to get you early. He doesn't necessarily carry his power that late. This is a 12 rounder, don't forget. Now, has he had any 12 rounders before Lara? Has he gone 12 rounds? I don't think he has. I don't remember him winning any of those secondary trinkets in his career and going 12 rounds. I know he's gone a 10-round distance a couple of times, but in terms of his engine, in terms of his gas tank, I would say there's a slight question mark over that, despite the fact he did get rid of Warrington in the first fight in 9 rounds. I think that might be an aberration. I don't know. I would say that the jury's out a little bit on Lara going full pelt for 36 minutes. Now, contrast that with Leigh Wood, because Wood himself has very heavy hands, but he does carry his power very late. And the two obvious examples are his two most recent fights, where he knocked out Mick Conlon in the last round of their absolutely fantastic fight. That was back in March of last year. So he's been out of the ring for, 11 months. Prior to that, he stopped Can Xu in 12 rounds to win the WBA belt. I think it was an interim title, and then it got made up to the full WBA world title. So clearly he carries his power late. And a lot of people who've sparred him and have fought him say this guy can whack. All the guys at the Ingle gym from the old days, including Tyann Booth, I think, has commented on this, of all people. He says, no, this guy can hit. And his gas tank is very, very good. He's got a tremendous engine. Now, Leigh Wood, of course, has had this Indian summer of a career where he's having lost to James Dickens, Jazza Dickens in 2020, who would have believed that he would be tearing up trees at world level? But he lost a majority decision to Jazza and regrouped, learned from that, came back. And yet again, I seem to say this in almost every other video I make, but, you learn from your mistakes. You learn from, you have to be bad before you can be good, just as you have to be ignorant before you can be wise. And he seems to have learned. And also he's teamed up with Ben Davison and has had tremendous success. Davison is an underrated trainer. I know people take the piss because of his, he's got that sort of, wavy hair look. He seems to be a little bit vain and all that. But okay, fair enough. That's his thing. I don't mind. But he's actually a pretty good trainer. And it's certainly paid dividends teaming up with Leigh Wood. Now, we got Wood. Wood has got heavy hands. He's got a good engine. He goes the distance well. Can he take a wallop? Well, he was almost flattened in the first round by Conlon. And it was very fortunate that it was right at the end of the first round. But he got up. And he did recover within a minute, within the minute's interval. And by the second round, he was still shaken, as you would think. I mean, that punch from Conlon would have flattened an elephant. But fair play to Leigh Wood. He got up. It took him a few rounds probably about 4 rounds, maybe 5 rounds, to get back into the fight, to get the rhythm going again. But the fact that he showed such fortitude, such resiliency, having suffered such an awful, catastrophic first round, proves that this guy has got the mental mettle. And this is why I think, even though Lara is extremely dangerous early on with those wild hooks, savage body punching, I think if Wood can, and I don't think he should go into his shell by any means, I'm not saying that, but I definitely think he should be banging that jab in from the word go. Make it the moment Lara comes anywhere within punching range, you bang the jab and to the body, to the solar plexus, as well as the head jabs. Because I do think Lara is vulnerable to the body. I don't think he likes it there at all. He can dish it out there, but he don't like taking it. I also think, even though he shouldn't get too greedy, Leigh Wood should be, when he feels confident, fire a head punch, you know, mixed up a bit, a hook to the body. You know, he's got to keep Lara honest. He's got to contain, early on, this is the first 3 rounds, contain that aggression, contain that potential eruption. And then I think that will test Lara mentally. And I'm not entirely convinced Lara has the mental fortitude of Leigh Wood. I don't think he's proved it. They're both orthodox fighters, so it's not like they'll be treading on each other's feet, or they shouldn't be. One interesting thing that I didn't realise, I think I watched one of G-Man's videos and he mentioned this, I hadn't realised this, is that Lara is 24 and Wood is 34. There's 10 years difference between the two. I had no idea about that. I didn't think Lara was that young, and I didn't think Wood was that old. But I think the fact that Wood is 34 means that even though he's had that 11 months out of the ring, that's going to benefit him after such an arduous, you know, perhaps a career-defining fight against Conlon. Whereas Lara, although he's younger, has had 2 fights within that time. Okay, the San Martin fight was a bit of a pushover. But the Sanchez one, I get back to that Sanchez fight, I can't get that out of my head. There was a lot revealed in that fight. Now, it comes to prediction time. I think that although if someone says to me, I think Lara's going to knock him out in 1 round, I would say, well, that's a bit fanciful, but yeah, I can see it happening. Or if you said, oh, I think Wood will knock him out in a round. Yeah, it's happened before. Lara's been beaten in a round before. He's been beaten in less than a minute before. If you said to me, I think it's going the distance for either man, I'd be a little bit surprised. But what I think is going to happen is that I think Wood will have to weather the early storm. If he stays disciplined, listens to Ben Davison, who no doubt, he understands boxing, he understands tactics, he's a very good tactician. If he follows the tactics, the game plan to the letter, doesn't get too greedy, doesn't start exchanging, bangs a jab in, softens up Lara, I think that he can score a knockout win over Lara in 4 rounds. And that's my prediction. I think Leigh Wood will knock out Lara in 4 rounds. I think Lara is extremely powerful with his fist. He's got very, very heavy hands. Hits like a sledgehammer. And I think that always flatters to deceive a little bit. I think people tend to, they fall in love, they get seduced by the power, and they overlook the shortcomings. Leigh Wood is he's proven at world level, even though 2.5 years ago he wouldn't have even thought he was world level. With the Kanzu fight and the Conlon fight, I think he's really proved himself to have tremendous mental strength, as well as some very good skills and obviously the heavy fists. I think he'll survive Lara's early onslaught and will bang him about. If he works the body, I think that's probably going to be part of the game plan. I think he'll chop down Lara and stop him in 4 rounds. And Lara is the favourite going in. He never has been for me. But so I would say, if you're a betting man, and I'm not a big betting man, but I like the odd fiver here and there, I'll be putting a fiver on Leigh Wood to knock out Lara. So that's my prediction. Tell me what you think below. Leave your comments. Don't just say you think we'll win. Tell me why you think they'll win. That's always interesting to have a little, little debate there. Like the video if you like the video. Subscribe if you're new. Hit the subscribe button. That helps us big. We want to build the channel up. Cheers. Great fight coming up in it. Let's be honest. Surely this one won't disappoint. But yeah. Leave your comments below. Like I say, thanks for your time. And we'll speak again soon. Bye for now.